Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining us today. Today our topic is going to be mindfulness. So what is mindfulness? How can you use it? And what difference might it make in your life as a caregiver?
So, mindfulness is the act of staying in the present and bringing your attention back to the present when it strays. So, this morning I'm going to challenge you to see how mindful you can be during this whole presentation about mindfulness, to see how focused you can keep your attention on being mindful. And if your mind strays, like to, what's the weather doing outside? Or let's see, what am I going to make for dinner? Or did I remember to take the garbage out this morning? That would be natural, but then see if you can bring your attention back to the present and stay focused on this topic of mindfulness and what it is that we're talking about here. So, how are you doing so far? I'm hoping that you're being mindful and staying focused and are not thinking about all those other things that could be going on in your head. But remember, if they do, come back to the present.
Well, I'm trying my best. So there is a book that is authored by Tiffany Maroli. It's called The Mindful Self-Compassion. Tiffany says there are core principles that are connected to mindfulness. So here are a few, and then Kathy will describe some others. So first is intention. One has to choose to be mindful. The second is present moment awareness. So our anxiety tends to pull our thinking into the future. This is also similar if you have depressive thoughts. Those usually involve ruminating about the past. So reflection is important, and that's noticing what is happening in the present. Noticing your thoughts, your emotions, your body sensations, and your behaviors.
I'll have to tell you, Abby, that since we've been talking about this topic of mindfulness, it has helped me when I've been in a situation of not being mindful to go like, oh, I need to be more mindful. I need to focus on what I'm doing. So we're hoping that maybe just this whole topic will make that happen for you so that you will, as you go about your daily life, go like, oh, feeling kind of scattered here, kind of acting kind of scattered. Okay, I need to come back and be more focused and think about right now, in the present, what am I doing? That would be the intention, and you choosing to be mindful. Another thing is that if you find yourself in a conversation with somebody else, or and you're becoming judgmental, then one of the things that you might want to do is to get curious and to continue to listen to somebody else, again being focused and living in that present moment with that person. So I used to tell my counseling clients that when they were feeling judgmental in a situation, that they should get curious and learn more. And another thing is, another element or core principle of mindfulness as you're being present, is to appreciate the moment. So last night, on Wednesday nights, I always have conversations with my stepdaughter, Emily, who lives in Minneapolis. And one of the things that I was appreciating as we were telling sort of a funny story is her giggle. She has the best giggle. And so I was appreciating being in that moment with her and listening to her giggle. I just can't hear that enough. And it just, is so it's a joyful moment for me. And if I wasn't being mindful, and if I hadn't been thinking about mindfulness, I might not have appreciated that moment quite as much as I did last night.
I think it's good to look at those things and try to appreciate, the little stuff. So thanks for sharing that, Kathy. So we've talked a little bit about what mindfulness is. So how do you use mindfulness?
Well, I think you can use it all the time. Like, I'm just kind of reflecting so that every time you're in the process of doing something and you go like, oh, I'm not right here at the moment. Like, if at this moment I was thinking about it's kind of sunny outside, I go like, nope, wait a minute. I'm talking about mindfulness. I'm having this conversation with Abby. It is being recorded. I need to be focused and in the moment. The more you practice coming back to the present, and being focused, the easier it's going to get. It's sort of like if you remember when you first started to drive a car, it wasn't automatic at all. You had to think about everything, and then the more you practice it, it's now just you can get in practically any car and drive off. And so that's how you want to get you want mindfulness to be in your life. You want to practice it so much that it just becomes automatic. Sometimes around my house, I am not so mindful. So I might be in the process of folding towels and I go like, oh, I haven't watered the plants. So then I go water the plants. And then I go like, oh, I need to put out the mail for the mail guy tomorrow and I haven't done that yet. And in that process, I'm feeling really scattered. So if I can be more mindful, I can come back and go like, okay, finish the towels, Kathy, and appreciate how fluffy they feel, how nice they are folding together, how nice they're going to look when you put those in the cupboard. So that would be being more mindful. And then I can go on to the next task of watering the plants, and I might be able to appreciate how green they are and how nice they're growing, and etc. You're kind of getting the point. So if I am more mindful, I'm going to feel less scattered about my day. So, how are you doing being mindful right now? Are you still focused and with us and being present in the moment while we're talking about mindfulness? I hope your answer is yes. So, you can use mindfulness, as I said earlier, in a conversation with someone if it's not going so well. So, again, instead of becoming judgmental, defensive, you stay in the present. You say, tell me more about what's upsetting to you. Listen to the person. You can use mindfulness when you're feeling anxious because, as Abby said earlier, probably you've projected yourself into the future without enough information and wallowing around in anxiety. And again, coming back to the present and to the focus on the fact that I am now recording this information for you about mindfulness. And again, as Abby said earlier, you can use it if you're feeling kind of depressed because probably you are ruminating about something over which you have no control because it's in the past. And so you need to come back, of course, to the future, or excuse me, back to the present from the future or from the past. I have found that one of the ways to do this, if I'm having trouble just thinking it, is to like tap something that's physical. Tap my knee, tap the table that I'm on, because that helps you bring yourself back to the present moment.
I think that's a great suggestion, Kathy. So let's talk a little bit if you're caring for someone with a chronic condition, especially dementia. It can be particularly helpful to be mindful. So people with dementia are particularly sensitive to nonverbal communications of those around them. So you're going to have your best shot at communicating when you're fully present and engaged. It's actually a good idea, and I learned this in the care center I used to work at. Before you enter a room, before you engage in any conversation, to center yourself and take a few breaths, and then be present and focused on that person with dementia or whoever you're communicating with. Actually, this is great in all conversations, even with your partner or spouse. So what difference might mindfulness make in your life as a caregiver? So theoretically, the more mindful you are, the calmer you'll be. It's training your mind to focus, which happens when you are mindful. It helps your daily life go better. So the being mindful and calmer helps the person being cared for also be calmer. I've heard the least stressful person in the room kind of controls the whole entire environment. So if you can make that be you, go for it, because that'll help your situation and hopefully reduce anxiety of everyone. Kathy and I were thinking of an example. You've probably all been at a cocktail party trying to communicate with a person who is more interested in what's going on across the room than being present and focused on the conversation with you. And when both of us have been in those situations, we kind of quit talking and just, might go off and talk to someone else who's more interested. So here are some other examples of how mindfulness might be used. Kathy, go ahead.
Okay, so this is an example, and this is totally made up because this has never happened, and I don't anticipate it happening, but it could. So Abby comes into me and she's really upset. She says, "I can't believe you gave me one more assignment to do. You know that I'm already overburdened and I'm anxious and upset, and now you give me one more thing. What in the world were you thinking?" And so I could get defensive, but I could stay mindful. And I could say, instead of being judgmental, like, who does she think she is talking to me, the director, that way? I mean, I have the right to give, suggestions of the next project that needs to be happening. But if I was mindful, I'd say, wow, Abby, I can tell. I would stay present and focused on her, not on me. And I would say, wow, I can tell that you're really upset by what I've done. And that was not my intent. So tell me more. Okay. And as she told me more, I would try and again remain very focused on her, not on me, and figuring out how we could resolve that. So instead of being judgmental, I would be hopefully continually curious until we got her calmed down and the matter resolved.
So here's another example, which might sound familiar to you. A caregiver is trying to get the person she cares for ready for a doctor's appointment. So the clock's ticking, the caregiver is struggling. She can't get her husband in his shirt, his shoes, only once easily found, and then into the car. So the person being cared for picks up that stress and anxiety and then reacts negatively, doesn't cooperate, and then the caregiver ends up yelling. I hope that hasn't happened to you, but it sounds familiar to me.
Could
Um,
be that it's happened.
yep. So if that caregiver could be more mindful and present, she would try to stay calm and focus on the first task to be accomplished. When her mind turned to the clock, she would redirect her thinking back to the task until it was finished and then move on to the next thing. So her calmness and ability to stay present would actually help the person being cared for not to react. So in the end, the task would probably be accomplished with without stress and tension, and maybe more quickly too. So how have you done during this presentation? Have you remained mindful? Have you been able to redirect your mind when maybe it's strayed? We know that you can do this. We would like to leave you with a thought that being present might just be a present you can give yourself. We are going to try as we go into the future to give this presence to ourselves regularly and often and try to continue to stay as mindful as we can.
So may you give yourself the present of being present. Thank you for being with us today.
And